also an HSBC ambassador, and so it all got quite competitive. So we'll be heading back there this afternoon.
Find him in the village, everyone. You get yourself a free tennis lesson. There you go. How did you get into golf in the first place? I know you're a pretty handy golfer, aren't you?
I just, growing up, my mum and dad played all sport. I had two older brothers that played sports. So, growing up out of sort of London in with a bit of space and a garden, we were always, kicking a ball, throwing a ball, catching a ball. And so I probably played golf first time when I was 5 or 6, and I've always loved it. And when I stopped playing tennis, I always knew I wanted to sort of play more golf, and lucky enough to be a member at Sunningdale. And so I've always enjoyed it, and then get the opportunity to come out here with HSBC in Abu Dhabi, and also at the Open Championship, to see the best players in the world playing some of these magnificent courses. It's I feel very, very lucky.
I always find a lot of elite athletes or professionals in different sports, or we mentioned yesterday, football, rugby, tennis, tend to play golf as their second sport. That seems to be the most participated. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's probably a few different reasons. I think first and foremost, the challenge, these different types of sports. Normally there's a moving ball, and in golf it's obviously a stationary ball. It's just you and your ball and the course, and we obviously know how difficult and how frustrating it can be. So that element of the challenge of hitting it and trying to get it in the hole as quickly as possible. I think also the escape from your own sport, to be out there and doing something different with your friends, to relax and give yourself a chance to do something different. And also I think the likelihood of getting injured in golf is probably a little bit less. If you're a professional sportsman or a professional sportswoman playing another sport, you obviously don't want to, get injured if you're participating in a pastime. So I think golf is great at ticking all those boxes, and I certainly look forward to playing a bit more back home when it warms up.
On the subject of that, why do you think in golf players or people tend to have more longevity in their careers opposed to tennis, where you retire a lot younger? Yeah,
I think probably the the physicality in tennis of all the movement and the stress that puts on your body. It's certainly not easy as you get older. So I think that's a great thing in golf, where you're able to play for forever. It's a game that you can start very young and play into your latter years.
And it seems as well in golf that the standards are a lot higher, but from a younger age. Like, why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think the accessibility and opportunity, the kids are getting, more chance to learn the game. The grassroots are better, and the coaching's better. And when you see some of the young kids out there, and from the age of 5, 6, 7, they're really able to hit the shots. It's brilliant to watch.
And we were just talking about it briefly there. In golf, we seem to produce in Britain a lot more golfers than we do in tennis. Tell us a little bit about that and why.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that flow of professional golfers in Britain has been amazing, and it's been a lot more limited in tennis. And to me, one of the challenges really the accessibility and opportunity of tennis in Great Britain, with the facilities that are required. Given our climate's not ideal at times, you need indoor courts. They aren't cheap. So I think a lot of money has been invested in that area by the LTA to make sure wherever you live, there is the opportunity to get involved in the game, hopefully to experience the game, have fun. And then the more youngsters we can get playing the game, the wider the base of the pyramid, the more opportunity you've got of the better ones coming through to the top of the game.
And on the subject of that, a tennis player that has excelled at quite a young age is Emma Raducanu. Of course, the US Open. You were part of her journey. We touched on it yesterday as well. She gave you a lot of credit for that, because she said she'd catch your eyes on court and almost joked that you were part of her team. What an experience that must have been. Yeah,
it was brilliant. Her coach in America, Andrew Richardson, was one of my great friends growing up. We played each other from the age of 11. He was best man at my wedding, so he was someone that I knew well. And it was amazing to see that journey. And from arriving in New York as a qualifier to play for 3 weeks, for Emma to win 10 matches in a row without dropping a set was just an incredible performance. And her world has certainly been turned upside down, and she's got such a steep learning curve. But, given her ability, given her sort of mental fortitude and her athletic ability, I'm sure she's going to win many more big tournaments in the future.
What's it like being courtside when obviously you were in her position at one stage? So do you almost have the itch that you'd want to get on and play, or do you prefer being there now?
I sort of don't miss the game from a playing point of view, but certainly to experience that atmosphere and to see the level of play that she was achieving at such a young age was really incredible. And in actual fact, you always find it much more nerve-wracking when you are watching rather than playing, because when you're playing, you feel like you're somewhat in control of it. So, there were definitely a few nervous moments in New York, but amazing to see her, win her first Grand Slam.
And when you're off the court as an athlete or off the golf course, how do a lot of these players or athletes tend to spend their downtime? Because are you focusing on the next thing? Are you watching back, or are you watching?
Yeah, I think certainly in tennis, when you're in the majors, in the men's playing best of 5 sets, your recovery and injury prevention is massively important. So, the players with a 2-week event, hopefully 7 matches, you're always looking, as soon as one match is finished, you've got to think about the next one and make sure that you're refueling, rehydrating, so that you're ready to go in, a couple of days' time.
Okay, we just touched on the US Open briefly. We're going to touch on the Australian Open. Quite a hot topic at the minute is, of course, Djokovic. You gave your insights and opinion on that. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it was, really unfortunate situation that really could have and should have been avoided. For Tennis Australia, who run the Australian Open, for the state of Victoria and the Australian government, you'd really want, those 3 groups to be communicating. So, there were no grey areas. And so, Djokovic turning up as an unvaccinated player, was looking to try and get into the tournament, but was going to struggle to get into the country. So I think it was really sort of unfortunate look for not only Djokovic, but the sport as a whole. And it was a pretty dark cloud over the event in the lead up the week before. And, wasn't a good story of him, being forced to leave the country. So I think the interesting element now is what will Djokovic do moving forward, because as someone that's not vaccinated, playing a global sport, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to, piece together a schedule. And it seemed that he's not going to be able to get into America. It's been said that he won't be able to play the French Open. So, I really hope from the sports point of view that he does get vaccinated, and then, he can continue his pursuit in becoming the best male player that's ever played the game.
So on the flip side of that, it must be hard, especially now with social media and just media in general, obviously focusing on certain subjects. When you were playing, if you had as much attention, would you have liked it as much, or would you look into it? Would you be reading articles and things about yourself?
No, I don't think so. It was never something that really appealed to me. I was, playing tennis because I loved it and wanted to be the best player that I could be, and other people's opinions, whether it's, the press and the media, television, radio, whatever it is, they're all entitled to their opinion, and that they're there to do their job. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to read that, listen to that, or be influenced by that. So no, I was always felt fortunate that I had a good team around me, and I was able just to concentrate on what I could control, which was really my preparation and my performance.
You're popular, Tim. Everyone loves you. Back to Djokovic just quickly. Before all of this Australian Open palaver, he still is perceived as a bit of a pantomime villain, isn't he? He does get booed a lot on court. And why do you think that is?
I think he divides opinion, really. I think when you look at Federer and Nadal, who have been around for so long and who are so popular, I think Djokovic has really craved that sort of adulation, and at times it sort of frustrates him that he has not been as popular as Federer and Nadal. And I think there are times when his behaviour on court and some of the things that have happened off court haven't been particularly attractive. But for me, it's much more important for him to just concentrate on being, the best player he can be, which I believe will be the best male player of all time, and that is something that he can control. So, my advice to him would be, keep doing what you're doing on the court, and not worry about the other stuff off the court, because I don't think that's something that he should be worrying about so much.
Okay. In contrast, we've obviously got Federer, a gentleman of the court. You've beaten him 6 times, you mentioned. There we go. Got to throw that one in there, don't we? He's 40 years old and still playing. Still
trying to play. He's he's had a few knee surgeries, and played at Wimbledon last year, but had a bit of a setback. He's had another surgery, and he's trying to get back on court, and I think that's a big question mark. He's 41 this year. The competition's not getting any easier, so he's pretty much alluded to the fact that he's not going to play at Wimbledon in 2022 this year. So it'll be interesting to see if and when he can come back. But I hope he does, and I hope that eventually he'll get the send-off that he deserves.
It's a shame, really, because obviously, as a tennis player, the Grand Slams are what you kind of live for, aren't they? That's what you look forward to most playing and participating in.
Yeah, definitely, and that's how his career with the likes of Nadal and Djokovic and Borg and McEnroe and all the greats of the game. That's how you're judged. So it'd be amazing to see him back out there on the biggest stage. But I also hope that sort of time isn't running out for him.
And what about the Olympics? Let's touch on that. You've played in it 3 times. Is that the pinnacle of your career? Do you enjoy playing Olympics as much as a Grand Slam? Or it must be great to represent your country as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been an interesting debate in tennis, and obviously I think golf falls into that category as a new sport in the Olympic movement. And I was lucky enough to play in 3 Olympics in Atlanta, Sydney and Athens. And certainly when I got the opportunity, I was delighted to participate in it, but I was slightly sceptical because I felt that the Olympics should be the pinnacle of your sport, and it probably wasn't in tennis. But I think it's fantastic now that tennis has really established itself as part of the Olympic movement. I really hope and expect that golf will do that moving forward. So it just takes time, but some of my best experiences were definitely participating in those Olympic Games.
And do you enjoy the travel? Because playing a sport at that level, whether it's golf or tennis, you've got to really enjoy it, don't you? Because it's basically part and parcel of the job.
Yeah, it is. It goes with the territory, and there's times when you're away 35 weeks of the year, it does get a lot, but at the end of the day, if you want to compete in those biggest and best tournaments, it does. It goes with the territory. So I enjoy the fact that I don't travel so much now, but loved every minute of it being on tour.
Okay, it wouldn't be fair to talk about Djokovic and Federer and not Nadal. How did you ever enjoy playing against him, and what's he like as a character?
Yeah, he's another amazing ambassador in our sport, and he's out in Australia through to the 4th round, had a good win against the Russian Karanashnikov last night, and he's been out with injury. He struggled at the end of last year, probably missed the last 4 or 5 months, but has come back, won the first tournament in Melbourne the first week of the year, and through to the second week of the Australian Open. He's won there before. He's won 20 majors. He's going to fancy his chances.
Do you think him lining up the bottles is a massive part of that? Because you see a lot of athletes having superstitions, don't they, in sport?
I mean, he's probably as superstitious as they come, and he likes to line up the label of the bottle to which end of the court that he's playing. He's got his routine with his headband, his sweatbands. I think sometimes his pants that he's got on as well. So
the wedgie.
It's not easy being Rafa Nadal on the court, I think.
Would it distract you? Obviously, your mental game in tennis is super strong, but could it distract you being on the other side of the net?
It's the most basic fundamental rule of sport is you've got to watch the ball. So, if you're watching your opponent too much, you're probably, not focusing on the right things. So, no, I think it's, something that the players are very much accustomed to. What Nadal is getting up to, but B, what you've got to be focusing on, and that's the ball at the end of the day.
Did you have any superstitions when you were playing, did you?
I think it's easy to sort of get into routines. I mean, when does a routine become a superstition? Sometimes you might eat in the same restaurant, or you have the same thing for breakfast. So I sort of tried to avoid them as much as I could because they become pretty pretty tiresome. But yeah, it's just horses for courses, finding out what works best for you.
I definitely have one. It's when I see a plug socket, the switch is on, I've got to turn it off. You see me walking around it, bending down, picking it off. That's
we'll go round and turn them all on now.
There we go. Right, I'm going to open up some questions to the floor now. Sir, front row, would you like to ask a question? Would you like to ask a question? This is the point where everyone starts to look away. They're like, no. We've got Tim Henman here. Anyone? Oh, I'm going to head over to you. Try and trip me up there. Hello, what's your name?
My name is Ian.
Ian, what have you got to say to Tim?
Afternoon, Tim.
Afternoon.
Tim, I'd like to know your viewpoint on your... excuse me one moment. Let me think again.
Forgotten his question.
Your viewpoint on women tennis players getting paid the same as their male counterparts, where there's a clear disparity in the number of sets played.
Yeah, it's a good question. I sit on the board of Wimbledon and obviously involved in that tournament. And when you look at that event as a whole, and we sell, our commercial team sell the television rights, they sell the sponsors, the sponsorship to our partners. We sell the championships at Wimbledon. That is 50% men, 50% women. So when you look at the revenues generated, that's generated by the whole event. And if that's, half men, half women, then I think it's absolutely right that the prize money is divided equally. And I think the question around the number of sets played is an interesting one. It's the history and tradition of our sport in the Grand Slams. And I think the question I would ask you is a 3-hour film better than a 2-hour film? And I think that's when you've got to, look at the content. And now, when I see the strength and depth of the women's game and how many great players, great athletes are at the top of the game, I think women's tennis is massively popular. I think it's a huge strength in our sport that we're a global game. We're played by men and women. And, I think in that forum of the 4 major tournaments in tennis, I think it's great that the prize money is equal.
Brilliant, thank you for that question. We've got another one here. What's your name?
Alistair.
What have you got to say?
Tim, of all the Wimbledon events that you participated in, and we all watched you compete, which was the one that got away from you most?
I think 2001, I was in my 3rd semi-final in 4 years at that stage. I'd just beaten Roger Federer the round before, so I was playing well, and unfortunately for me, that was before we had a roof on centre court. So playing Goran Ivanisevic in the semi-finals, we ended up playing over 3 days because of the rain, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So I was up 2-1 and up in the 4th set, very much with the momentum with me. So if I could play one match again in my career, I think it would be that match against Goran. But on the flip side of that, there are a good, half a dozen matches at Wimbledon where I wasn't playing so well and it rained, and then we were able to go off court. I was able to regroup and, turn it around and win those matches. So, swings and roundabouts. But 2001 semi-final was definitely one that got away.
What was your favourite tournament that you enjoyed playing at most?
Yeah, Wimbledon. I mean, I was lucky enough. My mum took me to Wimbledon first time when I was 6, and I saw Bjorn Borg play, and that was pretty much when I made my one and only career decision that I wanted to play tennis. So, it's always been a special part of my life. Being a British player, playing at home, it was like a home event, and really being the most prestigious and I think best Grand Slam out there. It was amazing to be a part of that. So Wimbledon always was and always will be my favourite tournament.
Well, you obviously played tennis at an incredibly high level, and you played golf at a high level as well, both individual sports. Do you always feel like you miss out from playing in the team sports, or do you prefer playing on your own? I
understand that, and I think that's where to get more youngsters playing, I think it's important that we almost introduce that team environment into tennis, which you can obviously do with doubles and the way that you would set up different events. But for me, I did always enjoy that individuality. It was the responsibility that I wasn't relying on anybody else. It was me against my opponent, and the way that I prepared and practiced, you're going to be rewarded for that. So golf is very similar to that. You've got to go out there and execute the shots and play the course. So there is enormous responsibility, but I always enjoyed that.
So what's it like? Just one more from me. When you're on competition, you're on tour. As I mentioned, it is an individual sport, but what's it like when you're off the court? Are you all good friends? Do you get on really well, or is it very much you're still in competition mode, not very social?
No, it is. I think certainly on the men's tour, it's a bit of a travelling circus, because you're all, following a similar schedule, playing in the biggest and best tournaments. There could be 64, 96 or 128 players there, so you're practicing with them. You're invariably staying in the same hotels. You might go out for dinner in the evening. So, really good camaraderie, some great friendships, people that I met in my junior days that are still great friends now. So, loved every minute of it, every element of it, and still very lucky to be involved in the game now.
Who's your best mate on tour?
Some of the British guys that I probably grew up, Andrew Richardson being, one of them, Jamie Delgado that was coaching Andy Murray. I've known Andy for a long time. So, yeah, lots of those people within the British game.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tim, for your insights today. Everyone, round of applause to Tim Henman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy your lunch.
And also, if you're keen to walk a few holes around the course with corporate commentary this afternoon, get involved. You can sign up just outside there. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.